Okay, steam action. Here we go. This hose got a funny hose barb fitting and a water hose fitting over there. Hooks to my pump somehow. Comes across, goes under the machine into the top of the Kranzel valve if it was hooked up. Then I've got a water inlet here in the Kranzel valve that goes in, and obviously the threaded fitting to adjust the pressure. This goes around and loops back around to my PSI gauge. PSI, 2000 PSI. That's that line. This is PSI, these two. This comes out. This goes, well, first of all, we come out of the Kranzel valve. Out of the Kranzel valve, it loops around and hammerheads off into this fitting right here. Just a closed loop. Loops right around right here. This fitting right here, coming off here, is also an out of the Kranzel valve. It comes back under the motor, goes into the blower and heat exchange exhaust, then goes through the canister of the exhaust pipe, which I'm assuming is a preheat, comes out here, comes around, goes under this fitting, up through the motor here, and attaches here to the top, one of the main top heat exchangers. It in turn, I'm assuming, goes through here and comes out here, which then it goes to this double fitting I'll explain over here. The double fitting here, this second pipe, this long pipe, goes all the way down here, bends in above the top exhaust, and actually connects back to this fitting. So from here, it goes under the motor, goes across that aluminum pipe right there, turns, comes back up, and goes straight into the far heat exchanger, which then again, it's also looped back to this heat exchanger. From that loop, one other kink in this loop, this is like a solid line. It goes, this goes down under the motor. The fitting that ties it all together is up under here. That's my aluminum pipe that I showed you that goes to this same thing. I'm standing on the other side of the motor now. It pops out and goes to a standard 3/8 inch hose fitting. So I'm assuming this may be my pressure coming out of my water pump. Going in is my far heat exchanger over there, looping back to this heat exchanger, which forming a continuous loop shy of the connection here to something. Let me turn the radio down real quick. And then from there, the only other odd thing is, so I've got a loop from here. It loops back through both heat exchangers. It comes down here. One of these goes down to my top of my Kranzel valve. These two hoses. All right, first off, this has got to be my final output. The red wire here goes to my temperature gauge on the front of the machine. The red wire comes here to the temperature gauge. So I'm assuming that this is my hottest water coming out here. This hose comes down. This is a 1/4 inch hose that is unconnected. So I'm assuming that this comes off my water pump or into my water pump, vice versa, one way or the other. Then the second hose down, this hose here has been cut off, where I'm assuming somebody robbed the water pump again. So this is a 3/8 hose, so I've got a 3/8 hose here coming off. I'm assuming that's part of my recirculation. When you cut the trigger off, this hose here goes out to the dual wand. So this is my final out to my front panel here. This is a cut off 3/8 inch hose. This is a 1/4 inch hose with a fitting on it This is my temperature gauge over here. And then from there, I have this menagerie. Here's my menagerie of hoses. See, I have a menagerie of hoses here. This coming across from my Cransel valve. 2 of them, 3/8 and 1/4, coming down right out of my final temperature gauge as I go to my wands. This hose is cut off. This is my freshwater inlet. The ex-brother-in-law said he used to always have to hook it to a garden hose fitting, so that's always my fresh water. And then this hose, which is hanging here, I'm assuming this is a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. It's the one that loops around and connects to these 2 fittings here, which in turn is hooked to those 2 fittings over there. So under that, all those assumptions, I'm assuming my water is somehow pressurized and going up over there, coming down here. This is my final out. So at that point, I'm clueless. Somebody want to help?